want to get a feel for, oh, I see some familiar faces. So some familiar faces, if you were in my UI UX actual physical workshop, then you probably have seen what I've done before, but we're going to be a little bit more interactive today. A lot of people have come visited us in the house. Hey guys, hey. So I want to get a feel for who are my coders out there? Who are my developers and programmers? Give me a thumbs up if you're a developer or programmer. Ooh, we have a lot of programmers. Oh man, you guys. This thing is dominated by programmers and coders. Okay, great. So just to give you a little FYI rundown, I am not a programmer. I am not a coder. I am purely a graphic designer. And I'm going to introduce to you what UI UX is in terms of design today and what that means for a designer and a developer. And we're going to go into that discussion a little bit later. Okay, so let's get into it, UI UX design. So these are our points of discussion today. We are going to talk a lot about design thinking, user personas, card sorting, information architecture, and wireframing. And these are kind of big bullet points. There's a lot more details to them, but just to get a quick overview for what UI UX entails, these are our points of discussion. So if you have anything you'd like to ask a question about, or there's something that really you'd like to bring out more in discussion, just let me know. All right, so let's get to what is UI UX. UI stands for user interface, and I created a little graphic here to show you what the interface is all about. So it is the colors, it's the formatting, it's any buttons and how they look active and inactive, and a lot of the design-based visual traits of an interface for either an app or a website. And then we have here on the right-hand side.
Sorry, the voice is very low.
Hello?
So I am so sorry. The voice is very low.
Is that for everybody? Bestun, can you give me a check? Is my voice low?
You're fine on my side. Maybe he has a problem. Can everyone just
maybe
in the chat? If you have any problems, let me know in the chat. Okay.
For me, there is no problem. I think your voice is very clear.
Yeah, it seems like and I'm pretty loud to begin with.
Okay, everyone says it's okay, so it's your problem. Please try to raise your volume more.
It's your problem, not mine. Very sorry.
Check your computer.
I will try to bring the microphone close. But yeah, sorry about that. We're gonna keep going. So user experience. So user experience is all about information architecture. How are you placing the information throughout the pages, and how is that person navigating those pages? So just a reminder, if everybody can mute their microphone, please. All right, cool. So the difference between user interface, UI, and user experience, UX, is basically in that one is the design and one is the information architecture in the design of the app. So user interface has characteristics such as visual design, the colors, typography, layouts. These are things that designers already are properly trained in. And user experience is really where you get kind of the how you guide somebody through. How do you organize all of this information? Like what kind of app is needed? So it's about interaction design, the buttons, the menu. How do you show, how do you make that button comfortable enough? How do you bring somebody into something familiar to do an unfamiliar task? User journey and user research. So it's all about the user. And then information architecture. So information architecture sounds exactly like what it is. It's basically how do you assemble all of that information together? All right, so here's an example of some user interface. And here we have a chat app, and it can be a chat that we are familiar with and we are not familiar with. So if we look at these two kind of screens, there are lots of elements that we can see here. I'd love you to raise your hand and point out a UI element. Raise your hand so I can choose you and unmute you. if you'd like to point out one of the elements and tell me whether it's a UI element or a UX element. Let's see who's brave enough to like raise their hand. Okay, hold on. Who's this? Who's this? Ooh, I don't know how to get your name. Sir. Who is this guy? I can't see the name. The guy who did the thumbs up, you can unmute yourself.
Okay. The name is Muhammad, by the way.
Muhammad Aziz. Muhammad Aziz. Sorry,
yeah.
sorry. Now it popped up.
No problem.
Okay.
So one of the components is the color. Having color on there is a component of the UI.
Excellent. Yeah.
Did I just mention one or more?
Well, I don't see anybody else raising their hand. Anybody else got a thumbs up? I mean, go ahead. If you mentioned a UI element, I'd love for you to mention a UX element now.
It would be cheating because I am a designer, so.
It's not cheating. Go ahead. Use your knowledge that you've gathered. This is not a test. Nobody's gonna win anything.
The typography is aligned and everything seems well in hierarchy. So that's also one of the things that I could.
All right, cool. But give me a UX element. So those are both UI.
Yes, the layouts of the items. So the chats, some of them are on the left, the others are on the right side.
Exactly.
So that's the layout of how the chat will be.
How the chat will be. Excellent. Thank you, Mohammed. So that's a great element of like UX design, right? And that comes from familiarity. We use so much chat in WhatsApp or Messenger that we kind of intuitively know which bubbles are our bubbles and which bubbles our conversation is having. There's somebody else who raised their hand. You can unmute yourself. The guy with the hoodie with the purple background.
The buttons.
Muhammad Jawad. Oh, sorry. Who else is talking?
Muhammad Ziad.
I'm so sorry. I can't see your names, you guys. Wait, hold on. So let Muhammad Jawad go, the guy with the purple background, and then we'll come back to Muhammad. What's your name?
Ziad.
Muhammad Riyad?
Ziad.
Oh,
Ziad.
Is just Ziad or Muhammad Ziad?
Muhammad Ziad.
MashaAllah, we have so many Muhammads today. Wow, Ramadan Kareem, guys. Okay, Muhammad Jawad.
You just can't call us by father name like Jawad and Ziad.
Well, I'm gonna call you by like purple background and the guy with the stairs in the back because I can't even see your names, but I see what kind of environment you're in. I'm so sorry. Yeah, Muhammad Jawad, go ahead.
Okay. For the UI, like the navbar that contain the inbox and the title.
All right, cool. Yeah.
The padding between the tables, like
padding between the tables. Yeah, excellent. What about a UX element?
UX element, like for the search button and like in the top right.
So the placement of the search button. So it's really like it's in an awkward place, isn't it? Because usually you'd have.
Like, it's easy for touch, like with the finger.
But usually you would have like a burger menu there for an app, right? So that's actually prime real estate for like when you're navigating your phone. There's a reason why it's right there. It's easiest to either tap up or like come down. So that's a really good point. Great.
Yeah. And should I mention more?
Well, no, I think now you got to give it, because Muhammad Ziad gotta, you gotta leave something for him. It's a tiny little app, Muhammad Ziad, it's your turn. Shine bright like a diamond.
I think they left me
no
nothing or
no.
Okay, the camera icon in
Excellent.
the right side, and the send icon.
The send icon and the camera icons, those are all navigation elements. Are you talking about the placement or the icon?
The icon itself, it's a UI. The placement is user experience.
Excellent, perfect. So now we're getting a feel for UI is the things that you see, they're visual, right? They're easy to point out. UX is the stuff that you don't see. It's really it's really part of the wireframing and the decisions that were made for the information architecture. Excellent job, you guys. Mohammed, good jobs all around. Maybe next round, people that are not called Mohammed. which is going to be hard. You know, when I saw the list, it was like 57 Mohammeds. Great, let's keep going. If you can all please mute yourselves again, that would be awesome. Moving right along. So we're going into something that looks like user experience. And here we have some flat lays of static screenshots. And if you can just take a look the next 5 minutes and tell me, what is this app all about? What do you think this app is all about just by looking at a few of these pages? And then you can raise your hand to answer, or thumbs up to answer if you, well, I'm going to call on people that haven't spoken before. Bestun, can you help me figure out how to get the names of, Hussein Al-Jassim. Hussein Al-Jassim, sir.
On the participants list, click on it. You will see who has their hands raised. You can
On the participant list. I feel like since I'm sharing my screen,
I can just tell them. I can just tell you who has raised their hands.
Okay, well, it doesn't look like anybody's raised their hand. Or are they raising their hand on the chat?
No, on the participant. I can see it for you, so it's fine.
Okay,
I'll let you know.
Cool. Can you call out the name for me? As long as it's somebody who didn't answer before. Let's give
no one has their hands raised at the moment.
No one has hands raised.
Okay, now they have. Okay.
All right.
Please, you can unmute yourself.
Qais Ayad. Who's Qais?
Quick question. My name is Ahmed, but I think I'm using my brother link. That's why I said it as Qais. Anyway,
okay.
I think
Hello,
it is because there is no actually UI, so you can see there's too much text and it's annoying. But the user experience is really good if you are reading it. But as a UX, it's probably an application. Just looking at overview for it, it's an application that you can sell or buy an amount of money, okay, and you can transfer the money with the percentage of profit for it.
It looks like it's for stocks, but you said something really interesting. You said that there's no UI.
Yeah, because it's really annoying. You have to read everything to understand.
Yeah, so there definitely is UI. You may not like it. Wait, there is UI. As long as there's typography, there's UI. As long as there's buttons, there's always UI UX, unless you're dealing with like an invisible app. But there's always UI UX, and that's a great comment. I really like your comment because sometimes it doesn't work for us. And sometimes that's either because the app wasn't created with the user in mind, which is really bad, or you're not the user in mind for this app, right? So if we think about it, and if it's a stock app and we're looking at like the currency, first of all, it's probably not for me. It looks like it's for somebody who has big money, who has big stocks to throw around and like sell and exchange, some kind of like stockbroker in New York City. Probably I'm not their target user, but definitely there's UI, definitely there's UX. And I really love that you were brave enough to say that point, because, you know, sometimes it's not built for us and we have to be very careful to figure out if it's for us or for another target audience. Great, but you were right. So let's keep going. All right, so this is an exercise that we would do if we were all together and working in groups, but I'm going to condense it and we're going to do it a little bit later on. But there are 5 points that we think about when we're talking about successful UI UX design. The first one is learnability. So learnability means that can the user complete the tasks? So think about the first time you're on a website or the first time you're on an app. We never really get told how to use something. We're kind of expected to learn how to use the app or the website when we're there, right? So how quickly can we learn about this app? And that's something that's very difficult to do. So when we come as programmers or developers to create an app, we make it functional, right? Developers and programmers are always thinking about like how to create this kind of interface. How do we bring in this data? How do we make it work? And designers are thinking about how do we get somebody to navigate this app, right? How do we bring them from the sign in to get them to do whatever they need to do? If it's an e-commerce app, how do we get them from the shop into the cart into final purchase, right? If we're in Facebook, you ever, who give me a thumbs up if you ever had to like help someone older than you navigate Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat? Come on, we've all been there. It's like, yalla baba, die, come here. How do I send this picture to Fulan? So it's already like, this app is not created with an older generation in mind, right? It's created for us, that we are like us. I'm much older than you guys, but like it's created for a set that understands how to navigate these and click through pretty quickly. So learnability is really important. We also have efficiency, and this one's a really good category. Efficiency, does the user face allow for the tasks to be completed in a timely manner? And I use the app Kareem all the time as an example. So, because it's a great example. So think about, here I have Kareem on my phone. And although now you can't use Kareem, but it has a smiley face, and then right away, wow, that's really bad. Right away, it takes you, you can't see anything. Right away, oh, you can't see anything, but right away it takes you to the map. Because think about it, when you're standing there in the street, you're waiting for a cab, you need to get to your app pretty quick. So actually that's a UX element that they must have thought about. Like once you've signed in, you're always signed in, and you need a cab, you need it right away. It takes you straight to the app. You don't have to go to menu, click, call a cab, choose what color cab. No, it's meant to be in a timely and efficient manner. Think about it when you're ordering like from food apps, right? Oh my God, here, if you're hungry, you're hungry. You need to get to your food fast, right? So the less clicks, the better. Memorability. So after leaving a website, how likely will it be that you remember how to use it? And these all seem like very common sense things, but when we're sitting to build an app or a website, this is where we have to keep these in fresh on our mind, because then we're dealing with a lot of information we might forget about the user. Also, errors. What steps does the interface take to lessen the chance of error? So the most basic interface that I can probably tell you guys is like when you're at an ATM machine. And this one really has to have a very elegant solution to errors, because when you're putting in your card to take money out from an ATM machine, you know, those, especially when we're dealing with Iraqi money, we got all those zeros, right? Imagine if you messed up with 1 0. You have to have a cancel button or an undo pretty quick. And that's also the case when we're creating all these apps. There have to be some kind of going back or canceling. You know, if you call the Kareem, but you know what, plans have changed, I need to be able to cancel out. That needs to be front and center for our user, because that creates a certain kind of panic and anxiety when they can't go back, when they can't figure out what to do, when it's like, oops, I'm here, that's it. You know, I've just pulled out $10,000 from my bank account. Not that that would happen, because there's like nothing in my bank account, but let's say in case that happened. And then the fun one is satisfaction. So does the user enjoy interacting with the design? This is a big one. This is a big one that we need to keep in mind, because a lot of times people are just like, you know, when you find that app that's like really cool, or like that game that really, you can navigate it pretty quick, you're going to take that app and show your friend, right? Like, oh my God, this app is so cool. It's so easy. I figured it out. That's really cool satisfaction from the user. And these are things that we need to think about as well when we're going through. Bess, do we have any questions so far before we hop into design thinking?
Yes, Ayar has a question.
Ayar, yeah.
Ayar, you can unmute yourself. Ayar. Ayar. With an R at the end. Okay. He's not saying anything, so you can continue for now. Okay, I will just lower his hand. Okay, cool.
Cool. Anybody else? No? All right. Cool. We have a good understanding of UI UX. We have some. Wait, hold on. Now we have. Should I read? Are there any research on UI UX for Middle Eastern users? Ooh, Mohammed Aziz, great question. Mohammed Aziz, where do you work? Tell us.
I have my own startup. I started UX and UI like a couple of months ago, and I've been teaching myself. I can show you our progress so far for the UX and the UI. So this is what we have come up with so far. Basically a real estate application platform. We allow the user to do transactions online. Actually, they don't need to do anything offline in the paperwork. And I had to learn everything very fast. So I was just wondering if there's any user research.
That's amazing. So as far as I know, you can talk to some businesses that have developed apps and get user research like that, or develop your own focus groups. But no, because as a designer myself, when I go to find research because we always have to research our users, we always have to get information about them. I haven't found anything to be really good, but you can also use other countries that are similar, but not quite the Middle East. So like developing countries, countries in Africa are really good starting points to get some like baseline ideas, and then kind of like just get understanding general trends. The UAE might have great user research, but obviously different economy with different like e-commerce and digital economy. So you just have to understand what exactly you're looking for. And if you're brave enough to start a focus group, then I would say start a focus group on that if you're being really specific. But user research, and Mohammed Aziz is going to take me to my next point. And I'll answer a few more questions later, but let's get into design thinking. And I am going to show you how Mohammed Aziz's question ties into design thinking. So a big kind of cornerstone of UI UX is design thinking. And design thinking, like I wrote on the slide, is the basis of understanding, navigating, and establishing user experience. So design thinking is all about the user at its core. You're thinking about what is the fundamental things that needed to be implemented for your user. It's not you creating an app and making sure that your user knows how to use it. It's you creating an app for your user. Very important. Especially, and we're in the Middle East, a lot of the stuff created for us is like, no, you need to understand how to use this. No, you need to understand, no, that's not how it goes. In design thinking, you're basically creating everything for your user. You're understanding their needs, their fears, their wants, and then you're creating that app for them. So that creates a lot less tension and friction. So what we usually do, and I'm not going to go into detail for this workshop, but we usually brainstorm first, like Mohammed Aziz was talking about. We think about our target audience. We ask questions. What's their demographic? Where do they live? Where do they work? How do they get their information? What do they do? What does their day look like? What kind of, things do they run into? What are their needs, their fears? What challenges do they face? And so how can our product help with those challenges, right? So we take something like Kareem. The target audience is going to be males and females between the ages of, let's say, 18 to 35 that do not have a car, or let's say even younger, because usually it's the youth that haven't really gotten a job and saved up enough money to be able to have a car, right? Or it's like females. And so we start to understand our users. What do they need? How do they need to access this? And so once we have an idea of our target audience, we then go into like user personas, where we take and we say, this is Khadijah. She's, 34 years old, and she doesn't have a car, and she needs to get to her job every day. And these are the things that she worries about, and these are the things that she needs. And you start to think about your user like that. And from the user research, we pull a lot of information. And we have something called empathy. Allah, something that maybe in the Middle East, we have a lot of very quietly, but empathy is how we relate and identify with somebody in their situation. I'm going to get to your questions just after this slide, so keep them coming if you have, and I'm going to pause right after this slide. But empathy is a skill that all designers have. We have to, because we have to put ourselves in other people's shoes. Yeah. And we have to understand and share the same feelings that our user might be going through. Even if you are not that user, you need to be able to see, research, and understand. Excuse me. And so you have to think about the problem, the circumstance, or the situation. So some questions to consider. This is really good basis questions. So if you'd like to write them down, you can now. So what is this person feeling? How are they feeling right now? Are they feeling confused? Are they feeling angry? Do they feel, satisfied? Do they feel safe? Do they feel comforted? What is the feeling that they're going through to better understand the challenge? What actions or words? So when you're talking to them or when you're leading a focus group, when he's like, oh my God, I'm so frustrated, I can't use this app. You write it down. Okay, he's feeling frustrated, he's feeling confused, he's feeling angry, she's feeling so-and-so. So these are really important things to identify, because then you're going to use them in the design to understand how to fix these. So any other words to describe feelings? And I'm not sure if I'm making a generalization about developers and programmers, but I feel, and you can thumbs up or don't thumbs up, but I don't know if developers and programmers are very much in their feelings. Thumbs up if you're a developer who has like a high sensitivity to feelings. I feel like, all right, we got 2, 3. So designers, okay, 2, 3, 4. Hey, Osama, I see you raising your thumbs up. So designers are going to have a lot more empathy and things that feel, how we feel towards certain things. It's very important to the way we design, and we design when we design for others. So it's really for those programmers that have not dead feelings, but like have lost their empathy sense. It's good to like pair up with a designer and just like riff off of questions. All right, we're going to stop here and take a couple of questions. So Mohammed Haidar asks, where do we have to start to learn UI, UX for developers? I mean, about programs and websites. That's a great question. So UI, UX is all about design thinking. So I think a great place to start is to start learning about design thinking. Sorry, I'm still here with my family, so you might hear screaming in the background. But design thinking is the core fundamental element of UI UX. So if you're a designer, if you're a developer or programmer, start there. Google IDEO, IDEO. Maybe, I'm so sorry. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not, but Google IDEO and start to research what they write about design thinking. They are the company that designed the Apple mouse, and they basically, everything that they've designed up from the Apple mouse to now has been all about design thinking. And it's really cool, the things that they come up with when they use design thinking. So that's a great place to start. And then I wanted to learn about how to make an app. Where do I start? I mean, just open up XD, start making little like iPhone screens and start playing around by like copying different elements if you guys want to know where to start. But if you really want to learn UI UX, then our bootcamp is probably where you need to be. One last one from Best Student. Hi, I'm completely new to graphic design. I wanted to know if UI UX is advanced, or is it okay if you don't have a previous background? Absolutely. If you don't have a previous background, it's even better, because it'd be nice to learn it the right way. I think a lot of what we do now is like Wild Wild West learning. Like we go on Google and it's like, Google, tell me how to learn this. And Google's like, here. And you like cut and paste until you have this like Frankenstein, education. But if you learn the right way, starting with design thinking, a lot will become a lot easier for you in terms of the creative process. Because I feel like when you're a programmer or you're a developer, you think a certain way. When you think in code, it's completely different logic to when you're thinking in design and you're thinking visually. Both require a tremendous amount of creativity.
We have Ayman and Haval raising their hands. If Ayman can start.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Eamon, you're up.
Okay.
Or Havo.
He just lowered his hand.
You just lower.
Okay.
Yo, guys.
Yeah.
Maybe.
You can just continue.
Yeah.
Only raise your hands when you have something to say. Otherwise, keep your hands down, please.
Keep your hands down.
And any other questions, you can put them in the chat, and I'll send them to Khadijah anyway.
Cool. All right, we're gonna keep on going. So persona creation, this is part of where your empathy and your user comes in. So when you're talking about your persona is taken from your target audience, you have to think about their habits, their motivations, and their fears. Really important. Like if you're creating an app for a certain sector of the population, you need to understand like, what do they do? How does their day look like? And I put down some examples, like do they eat healthy food? Do they like social gatherings? Do they brush their teeth twice a day? Do they sleep on time? And this all may sound really out there if you've never thought about this before, but these are small details that help build a pretty detailed and accurate persona to be able to understand how people use what apps and how they use them, right? You need to understand their motivations. Like, do people like to feel accomplished? Are they invested in their health? Do they like to read more than they socialize? Do they want to own the latest tech gear? These are also motivations. Some of their fear of rejection, fear of missing out, fear of change. For example, مثلا, the best example I can come up with right now is one of the fears that we have as a generation, let's say, as millennials and Gen Z, we have big fear of missing out, right? So because we have a fear of missing out, we have this constant need to check our Facebook, to check our Instagram, like what's going on, who's having what conversation, who said what on whatever social media platform. Like we have Snapchat. I mean, isn't that really speaking to our fear of rejection, or not fear of rejection, fear of missing out? That's super, like, fear of missing out is directly linked to that. So we never want to miss out. So we're always on these social media platforms. All right. Once you've collected all this information and you're pretty comfortable with your user, you understand what their fears are, their habits are, then you start to organize the information. And this is the fun part. This is the stuff that you see like in movies. And this is definitely what I did in design school. So when we were creating our apps, we'd sit there with a bunch of Post-its and like markers, and we'd be there with like no shoes. We've been there for hours. We're trying to think. It's that like creative like thing that happens between us all. You're working in a group, and always work in a group. Always work with people. Guys, if you're working by yourselves, not good. Not good. You're not going to come up with all of the ideas. If you get to meet people that are in the same space and you get to meet people today, reach out to them, brainstorm with them. So information architecture all is about organizing the content. And so that leads me to my next point, card sorting. So card sorting is basically you're taking a bunch of Post-its and you're writing down all the different possibilities of the app, like sign-in page, bam. What do you call that? Options or like settings, bam. Choosing your cart, bam. And you basically start to write all the different clickable things or pages or apps or things that might show up on your app. And it's huge. It's a huge process, and it's called card sorting. And you're basically putting all these Post-its, and then you start to build your user journey. So after you've collected all those pieces and kind of organized them as sheets, you start to understand your user journey. So then you bring back your persona. You're like, okay, this is Khadijah. I'm designing this app for Khadijah. Okay, so her journey might look like this. She signs in, she goes, she checks, what the options are for like ordering a cab or whatever. And then she'll go to this page, and you're basically tracing how she might use the app. Then you have a few other personas, and you're going to trace on how they might use the app. And each journey is different for each person because we talked about the different possibilities that they have. And you're basically visualizing the process before it becomes an app. and you're keeping in mind the user goals, their needs, their expectations. So you're taking the user from point A to point B. I will stop here and take questions because that was a lot of info. Sorry, I don't have anything to say. Keep going. Thanks. You're welcome. No questions? All right, cool. Unless, Biston, you see something I don't see. About the persona, I have a question. What does it mean, building a narrative? Okay, Hamjawad, nice question. Omar, Amaj, I have a persona about the question. Yeah, tell me your question about the persona. Omar? Omar? You guys can't ask a question and disappear into your little black boxes of infinities. I can't find you. Where's Omar? Okay, I'm gonna give up. Let me see. Oh, why is this so? Where the from Bestun? Oh, I asked. This is how you make an app. Hold on. I think we need to learn more about Zoom first. I was typing. Sorry. Okay. I didn't quite understand how it's linked to UI UX. Okay, Ahmad, yes. Okay, so how is the persona linked to UI UX? Who would like to answer that? Who is paying attention? How is persona linked to UI UX?
I would like to explain that.
Who said I would like to explain? Hussein?
Ahmed. No, Ahmed.
Wait, but let Hussein talk, Ahmed. Because Hussein didn't talk and you did. Hussein Al-Jassim?
Yep, I'm here.
Yes, okay, cool. Ahla sahla.
Okay.
Please tell us,
Ahla
how
sahla.
does the user persona have to do anything with UI UX?
Okay, hi everybody. It's all about the user experiences or the customer experiences, which is the misleading information that you unintentionally missed out or passed out.
Yeah.
It's all about the customer experiences, which is mainly contained from visual identity of the product, which is the bridge between the customers and the surfaces. How do I say it?
Any way you want. No right or wrong.
Yeah, the persona is type of specification or customization for the products to be served for the customers.
Yeah, good.
Like the process, yeah.
Yeah, excellent. It's basically, you need to know about your user because you're creating this product for them. So the persona has a lot to do with how are you going to create this for them, and it'll make a lot more sense. Maybe because UX is such an invisible thing. It's the architecture of your app. It's also, I'm a designer. I deal with a lot of visual things. UX is, for me, very important when you're building an app. You can have a pretty crappy app if you didn't think about your user and their, maybe because we use the word empathy and feelings and their habits and all these like ooh la la things, but like, no, it's a very big concern. Like, you need to know about the challenges your user faces so that they feel comfortable using your app. Mathalan, Hamd Aziz, whatever app you're designing, you need to have a focus group with your target audience, and you have to let them use your app without saying anything so that you can see what their frustrations are. Where are they like getting stuck? Where is it not working for them? Did they like it? Did they not? We don't take these things personally. This is great feedback because we're going to talk about prototyping soon. So that's how.
Here's the funny thing that I wanted to mention. Before we started like doing research on UX and UI, we did our first iteration. The search bar was actually on the bottom of the app, not on the top. So we found out much later on that that's a UX thing, and you should never have it on the bottom because people are used to having it on the top.
Exactly. And you learned the hard way, probably. So you probably wasted time doing that. Whereas like, if you're basing it on a certain research of another app, so it's always good to like check your competitors, check what they have, check what they do well. And take from them where certain things need to go, because you need a certain level of familiarity with each app. So that's also going back to learnability and memorability. Remember we talked about those 5 things? So yeah, you learn the hard way, but that's okay. We learn. It's all good. Moving on. Once you have all of this information, once you've collected all this data, the user journey, you start to wireframe. And wireframing is a visual representation of the user interface. And it is, like I showed you here, let me go back to this. This is a wireframe. Here where you see user experience, this is a wireframe. It has no elements other than where you place things. So like if you have a box like this with a cross, you know that here is going to be a photo, here might be a button, and you're basically just laying out the information. And it's, wireframing is done so that you can have rapid prototyping. So before you start to like build different colors and start to use your palette and your type, you start to wireframe, and it really helps define hierarchy. Hierarchy is very important. Okay, now hierarchy doesn't live in code, because code is just, you can write code in one continuous infinite line, and just for humans we have to have code broken up so that we can understand code and read code. But for design, hierarchy is very important. What you put as the biggest element is where you are leading your user to look at first. Whatever you use, say like your whole interface is black and you have one red button, your eye is going to go to that red button. And so when you wireframe, you're starting to understand these elements in relationship to each other. All right. And sometimes we can get, as designers and developers and programmers, we might be so caught up in the mass amounts of information that we have that we forget about these smaller things. So wireframing is an ability for us to rapidly prototype. User interface. So we talked about user interface. So you should create pleasing aesthetics and animations that convey your organization's values and maximize usability. So it's all about being economical, right? It's not about just using these fancy things to like be fancy. No, you're using them to be functional as well. So we're going to go into the elements of user interface, and I can send you all this presentation afterwards. I'm not going to go into these details now because I feel like we've all had a big iftar and you guys can read this all on your own. But I'm going to go into the details of user interface, such as the aesthetics that we use in design. And there are 4 kind of elements that we use for user interfaces. We have type, we have color, and color has different meanings. And I put down some of the meanings that we have here. So red, power, strength; black, style, elegance, wealth; pink, carrying hope, right? You wouldn't use pink for like an F1 app or racing app. You wouldn't use black for like a children's app, right? So these are pretty, like, you know, you wouldn't use these colors to express this thing. Like we know it's internal, but then we come to design and we forget all about that. We're like, oh my God, yes, I want to design an app for babies, and I'm going to use black, and I'm going to use this like fuchsia green, and it doesn't work. Like there are certain colors for certain ages to convey certain feelings. So, I mean, I can go on forever about color. We have type, imagery. Imagery is really important. You have like illustrations, you can have photos, you can have collages, you can have, I put here an isometric because everybody knows that was huge for a long time. Like, oh my God, make it sexy, make it isometric. And everybody wanted to hop on that. So the imagery that you use is also going to convey what kind of like product you are, right? Icons. Don't we all love a great icon? Icons are really important. Everybody loves the minimal icon look. And then we go into prototyping. So I skipped over a lot of the UI elements and the elements of design because those are things that we have a lot of examples of on, you know, online to kind of base our judgments on. And design is a beast in and of itself, but UX, user experience, is where the money's at. So like, if you wanted your app or your website to succeed, I would invest a lot of time and research and energy on UX before I start to make it beautiful, because you can have something that can be beautiful but doesn't work right, and you'll lose your user. Whereas you can have a great interface, you can have a great experience, and you can keep your user. I feel like we might have a question. Can you show PowerPoint number 3? I don't know what number 3 would be. Sometimes red color means dangerous. Yeah. How many colors do we use in one application? That's really up to you. I wouldn't do more than 3. I would even stick to 2, depending on what kind of application you have. The more elegant your design, the more your user will feel confident in using your app. Don't make your user feel like they're stupid. Like, that's the most important thing, right? Nobody wants to feel stupid when they're using an app, because it's really not their fault. So keep it as simple as possible. And I would say 2 to 3 colors max. I mean, that's just basically my principle in design. I don't like using a lot of colors. And that's just because if you use a lot of colors, it becomes, it's like a lot of people are talking at the same time. Can you explain more the persona? I'm going to share this, this PowerPoint so that you guys can then review it. And if you do have any more questions, you guys can email me. I think my email was provided in the registration link. What about some buttons that need to be a different color, like cancel or reject? Yeah, those are when you go into like design for UI, there are active buttons and inactive buttons, and then there are the cancel buttons. And those are great to like see your competitors, hop on Behance and see what kind of, you know, here's the thing. You have a powerful research at your fingertips for UI UX. Like, you have some of the biggest companies at your fingertips, literally. Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Lezo, Kareem. Take 5 minutes, go through their app, see how their buttons interact, see where they put their search bar and their burger menus, see how they go back. These companies have spent millions and millions of dollars on their UI UX, and it's right all there for you to like check out. You can spend 5 minutes and then be like, oh, okay, I see the pattern here. Or, oh, okay, I see what they've done. Like in Kareem, you can have all the colors be like green or gray, and then the one to cancel can be red. And that one can be like, ooh, in your face, you know? I'm not gonna order now and then not pick up because I don't want them to charge me, but just take a look on your app and see what happens. Which color is perfect for use? It depends on your user. It depends on what you need, and it depends on the colors. So it depends. All right, so one of the biggest things about design thinking and about kind of the user is prototyping. And there's a big thing in Silicon Valley and kind of like startup world, it's rapid prototyping, right? So all of you guys that are developers probably know that when somebody comes to you with an app or something, it's like, when do you need it done? And they're like, yesterday. Everything has to happen pretty quickly, right? And so what rapid prototyping helps us do is that after you've collected all this research and you've done all the research and you put it in the wireframes and you've created, like, this is why you work with UI UX designers, because before you go take it to get it programmed, like, you can have a static website that gives you a simulation to prototype. And so what we used to do in design schools, when we create an app, then what we do is we run it on InVision, we hand it over to our friend, we're not allowed to say anything, like absolutely nothing, and we just see how they interact with it. And it's prototyping. You're seeing how a user will interact with it. You're not allowed to say, no, not that button, the other button. No, not like that. It's all notes for your research, so you can go back and fix your wireframe, and you can mock it up another way, and you can understand where your failures lie. Just like Hamdazi was like, we realized right away our search bar is not supposed to be on the bottom, it's supposed to be on the top. You can see that when you give somebody the app to prototype and they're like, they hesitate or they look confused, you'll write that down. You have to have observation skills like a hawk. And then once you get your feedback, you prototype again and again and again until it's seamless. And that's rapid prototyping for a user. And depending on how much money you have and how much time you can wait, 184 iterations so far. Yeah, but that's that's when you know you're getting somewhere. Is there any application available to make the framework of our application? Yeah, you can use Adobe XD. It's free. The industry standard is Sketch. I've heard of people using Figma. I don't know, Bestun, if you want to talk about Figma, because I don't know. I haven't worked with Figma. What is the difference between UI and UX design specifically? Really, Aya? Really? Who can tell me what's the difference between UI, UX? Actually, Ayad, do you want to try and answer it? I think you should try and answer it. Where's Ayad? Sir, where's Ayad? You're just going to drop it in the chat and then leave? Do y'all hear these Ramadan series? Everybody's yelling. Here, no, LOL. Who wants to be brave? Who wants to be brave? Ahmed, we already heard from you.
Khadijah,
Hey.
AR.
Hey. Is this a girl speaking?
Yeah, come on.
Hey, yes, let's hear your voice.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. AR, what user interface, it's interface, right? I just don't remember the names. UI
Yes.
is about how the design, how the app looks, but UX is about what do they feel when they like use the app.
Cool. Explain it a little bit more. So UI, you said, is about what the visuals are, right? So like the shape of the buttons, the color, the type, the hierarchy, and UX is about the feel.
Yes, exactly. How? Yeah, you can go.
No, I want you to go. I'm just helping you. I talk a lot.
So the user experience is about like what does it? So Haval, the user experience is about like which buttons, which things make you uncomfortable, and which of them like makes you comfortable, which things makes it easier for you to go through the app and stuff like this.
Excellent. Good. Yeah. Theoretically, like the best case scenario would be that you feel comfortable, but there are a lot of apps that you're just like, you know, you ever been in an app and you're like get this to work, and then you delete it right off your phone just to like pay them back for their shitty app. You're like, oh, I'm going to delete this off my phone. What a waste of gigabytes on my phone. Exactly that. So user experience is basically when you think about how your pages are laid out, like what page is going to go before another page. When you go to settings, how does the settings look like? Have you ever been on an app where you're trying to change the settings and you're like, I just can't get to, like, there's something you want to change and it's not there? Mathalan, the last time I had the UI UX workshop, we all got on the app Lezo. And Lezo is a pretty good app. I don't know for any that's not in Erbil, it's our app to like order. So we opened Lezo and we were going through it and somebody found a glitch. And the glitch was that on Lezo, this is what happens with Bestun all the time at Recoded. So Bestun at Recoded House is like brave enough to order us all food, you know, back in the time that before COVID-19, like we'd go to Bestun and be like, Bestun, please, like, can you order food for the office? And Bestun's like, okay. And Bestun like will order it on Lezo if he has to. And there's a glitch. So say there's like 10 of us, right? And somebody's like, oh, you know what? I want to change from my biryani to like, I don't want biryani, I want shawarma. And he had already ordered like 6 biryanis and like 4 shawarmas. Okay. You can't go into Lezo and delete one. You have to delete the whole order and start over. That's UX, right? So somebody had to think about that through prototyping to figure that out. Isn't that a pain in the butt? Like, that's pretty annoying, especially if you're doing a big Lezo order for like your whole office. Imagine 20 people and you have like all the orders and you have to delete all the orders, just take out one and then put them all back. That's a headache. So in that workshop, we asked somebody to go tell Lezo as they're prototyping to fix this glitch because it's a pretty big glitch. So that's user experience, right? That's the experience of the user, that they had a challenge in that moment that couldn't be solved by whatever the app was. Great question. And thank you for Yadgar. Oh, it looks like Hamza Aziz also knows who the Lazo developed. We keep giving like free information for Lazo, man. They have to start commissioning our cool focus group sessions. Okay, cool. So if we design UI, should fulfill with UX. I don't know what that means, but you should have a good UX in place before you do the UI. Like, don't start designing cute buttons before you understand where your buttons are going to be and how they're going to help your user, if that makes sense. Is there a difference between user story and user journey? Muhammad Jawad, where are you? Is it the guy with the purple background? No, it's the guy with the stairs. Muhammad Jawad? No, that's Ziad. No, this guy with the hoodie. Yes, Muhammad Jawad. Yes, what do you mean by that? Can you unmute your mic?
Like I've heard many like words about and in different places or resources. In some places they mention user story, and in some they mention user journey, as you said in the presentation before.
Good question.
I just confused between.
They should be the same thing. If it's the user story or the user like narrative or the user journey, unless they mean your user persona and kind of like what a day in the life looks like for that user. And a lot of the terminology for UI UX can. Hello, can somebody mute there? Somebody's not muted.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no problem. I don't even know who that was, but okay. Yeah, so user journey and user story should be the same thing when you're talking about how the user is experiencing the app. And sometimes the terminology will differ, and all you have to do is just validate, verify, you know, especially when you're working with a team. Hey, dude, does user story mean this? Or did you mean this? Like, always verify. And there's nothing wrong with saying, I don't know. Let me get back to you. Always do that better than being like, oh yeah, sure, I know. And then 57 pages into the app, you're like, oh, I made a mistake. And then going back is really difficult. So verify moving forward. Zina, why do I feel like for a developer, it's difficult to be a designer?
Excuse me, Miss Khadijah. Can I have a question, if you don't mind?
Sure.
I came late. I don't know. I'd like to install this app and I don't know how to work on it. So I came late a little bit. So would you like to, wait, it's breaking up here. I'm sorry. So now we are talking about the workshop here, UX and UI, right?
I'm sorry, how much of this did you miss? I feel like you missed the whole thing.
I know, yeah, I just came to the application just now and my internet,
Ahla sahla. Yeah, I can't
speak Arabic, sorry.
Welcome, Fermo. Ahla sahla.
Thank you, thank you.
All the languages.
Thank you.
But we are almost done with our time. We are going to send all of our participants the PDF, but just to respect everybody else's time that was here, I cannot go through. It's all right, but we will have another workshop.
Yeah. I was just inquiring, yeah.
No problem at all. I appreciate it. I just like to be very direct and honest, but just to keep everybody else's time, we'll be having multiple workshops about UI UX. You can join that one as long as you're on our mailing list. Okay?
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, so I just had one more question. I feel like from Zina, I feel like the developer is difficult to be a designer. Zina, do you mean that you feel like it's difficult to be a designer from being a developer? Or do you feel like it's just difficult being both? You can write or you can talk. Is there an advanced Hamd Aziz, the advanced portion of all of this, Zina, I'll wait for you to just clarify. But the advanced portion of this is going to be our 3-month bootcamp where we go into all of the details. This is just meant to be an overview and kind of an introduction. And of course, if you guys have any questions about your own apps that you're building, or if you are more advanced and need a little bit more help, we're absolutely available to help out as Recoded. So if you'd like to send me an email or like discuss things, you know, our community means a lot to us. So we'll be there. I think for now she means being creative. We may have little information about the bootcamp. Many thanks. Yes, we are going to talk about that question about the bootcamp, Arabic and English in the coming days. Yeah, so my Arabic is not so hot, but if there are enough people that want it in Arabic, I will embarrass myself and do this in Arabic. But I know why Beston's already laughing, because if we need to have it in Arabic, but the bootcamp will be in English. All right, so the bootcamp, and just to answer Zina's question real quick. Zina, look, everything is hard and difficult, and it seems like alien when you first start. You have to start and you have to find people. We right now have, how many people are in this? 58 people that are interested in this, and we have our community to help support one another. We all have shitty ideas. We all make really ugly things when we start, and it only gets better. You fail, you get up, you make it better. So nobody creates anything beautiful like right off the bat. Actually, one of the ideas of prototyping and developing and all this is start to create really awkward things, and then they get better as you build. And that's something that I just want to like shout out to. Guys have a lot more confidence when it comes to this than girls. So just keep it in your mind. Just be like, you know, a lot of people mess up. A lot of people do these things. And it's just, you build confidence by doing. Mohammed Hussein has had his hand raised for a while now. Mohammed Hussein, where are you? So many Mohammeds, mashallah. Information in the boot camp and design web. To design the web page is more difficult than to develop it. No, I think designers and developers both have difficult jobs. Like to develop, you have to think that your brain is wired a different way. Like to think about code, like you're thinking about solving real world problems in like different kinds of code. I know basic HTML that Bestun would laugh at. But I feel like designing and developing are both hard. So it just gets easier once you design more and more. You have amazing Arabic. Thanks, Osama. That's just because you want to see me mess up in Arabic again. How do we presentation? Yes, we can send you the presentation. My first design was embarrassing. Mine too. My first, second, third, fifth, 10th, 15th, they were all embarrassing. But you can check out my website and laugh some more. Can we see any of your designs? Yes, you can check my website. I have a website called khadijahdesigns.com. You can check out my designs there. I think the workshop for Iraq must be in Arabic because not everybody's strong in English. Okay, cool, safe, yes. But Iraq has lots of different religions, ethnicities, nationalities, and languages. So we found our base in English. Also, if you want to be able to work for companies all around the world, you probably will need to learn this in English. Maybe, inshallah, in the future, we'll have it in Arabic and in Kurdish. Can you show some of your projects, please? No, this is just for UI UX. I'm not going to embarrass myself and show you all my projects. They're on my website. I can put my website in the chat box after. But, oh, thanks, Amar. Let's talk about the bootcamp. All right, so we have a UI UX bootcamp.
Sorry, Khadijah. I have this question. I cannot hold myself anymore.
Omar, yes.
Before we go to the bootcamp things, this question, today I bought a CD. It was about, you know, Quran and those stuff. And whenever you touch a button, a sound will come up. For example, you go to the home button, it says Al-Raisi. You go for the Tajweed part. At Tajweed, I think it's not a trendy thing nowadays, but what do you think about all design ideas and classic things, classics that used to be there in the 2000s and now it's gone in the modern app? Like, for example, Adhkar al-Sabah, when you click the button of Adhkar, or those stuff. What do you think about it? Just want your opinion.
My opinion of something I haven't seen, Amar?
No, sounds when you click buttons.
Sounds when you click buttons. I think it's great for, I have a blind aunt and I have a blind uncle, and my blind uncle is really religious, and so that probably would be an app that he can use, right? So then he can, instead of like visually clicking through buttons, he can like hear what the option is. So for me, not being very judgmental of designs and kind of absorbing and maybe seeing things in a different, so like maybe you have this CD and it does this old thing, but like, are you able to see how it can help? Are you able to see how it can be relevant? Are you able to see how it can help a user? There are really cool designs and websites done in like retro, like back in the 90s, like how the internet used to look like. And these are pretty cool designs doing different things, right? I don't know if that answers your question, but I always like interacting with different kinds of design. Not everything needs to be like super modern, and we don't need to take our references with everything that's coming out in like Behance and things like that. You can still like download a CD and have like each button have a what do you call it? A sound come out of it. Yeah, why not? Okay, so.
Yeah, Ms. Khadija, can I add something or correction for the previous things? Can I?
Yeah, I mean, you go ahead. You're already doing it.
Yeah, for the previous questions. This is the differences between the persona and the journey. This is the randomly mistakes or randomly bad experiences for the terminal users, which shows the difference between the journey and the persona. The persona is depending on the type of the user, on the age, and the area of the users. I write down some notes. It's about the persona and the journey. The persona depends on the type, and the age, and the usage, which is the aim of
the user persona. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, the user persona is a specification or customization for the experiences, results of using the products, which depends on the area and accessibility and the generation, which is customization elements, and the journey, which is like the reflection of using some architectural coding information, which is within or built in inside the customer experiences. This is the randomly mistaken, like
the user journey. The user journey that I've learned is the one that you basically try to map out how your user will go through.
It's not about the exploring some products.
The app.
Yeah, it's how the app goes on, how the exploring goes on, how does it works, how does it feels.
Yes.
How
the user journey. How you go through the pages of the app or the website.
Yeah, how does it reflect for depending
how do you get your user from point A to their goal?
Yeah, it's about the stages of building an app. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you. So, okay, we've gone 15 minutes over, so let's talk about boot camp. The boot camp is a 3-month boot camp that we will go into the details of UI, UX, design thinking, building an app or a website, prototyping, and going into one of the hottest jobs right now, especially if you're a developer, but also if you're just interested in design. It will start in June, inshallah, God willing, that all goes well. So Hassan, if you know anybody, Mohammed Aziz, if you guys know anybody that you are working with, that you would like them to kind of up their skills, we have 20 slots for really people who are creative, they take initiative, they would like to learn, and they're being taught at an industry standard at Recoded. I will be leading the UI UX boot camp, and it's very competitive to get in. There is a 4-step application process, and Best Student will be sending the link for anybody who would like to potentially join. And in our boot camps, we always teach kind of technical and theory, but we also pair it with soft skills. So like understanding how to communicate as a professional, how to, you know, present your ideas, going through the creative process, how to conduct a proper interview. And also you will become part of the Recoded alumni group, which we take very good care of our alumni in terms of networking and finding them potential jobs and opportunities as both freelancers and employees of bigger companies. This is our first boot camp. This is after speaking to a lot of kind of bigger companies in Iraq and seeing that they're always asking us, do you have a UI UX designer? We really need UI UX designers, and like developers coming up to us and being like, oh, what is UI UX all about? So in order to kind of teach at a high standard, this boot camp is going to roll out. The boot camp will be 3 days a week. 2 of those days will be, correct me if I'm wrong, Best Student, there will be about 3-hour sessions, and then there's 1 full day of mentoring or class. I'm not sure what.
2 days in a week, probably 1 day in a weekend, on a weekend.
Yeah, so it's definitely a big commitment, and it's a flipped classroom. So you do the learning at home, we do the exercising in class. So it's a big investment of time. Yeah, and if you guys have any questions for me about the bootcamp, let me know. Contain any coding? No coding. A'udhu billah min coding. Any softwares that we will be studying? I think we'll be using XD because it's free, even though I'd love to use Sketch. Is it going to be online? Muhammad Haidar, goodbye, thanks. No problem, peace out, Muhammad Haidar. Yeah, it's going to be, I mean, because of COVID, one of the biggest things that we saw that we were going to have it in person in Erbil, but now that COVID rolled around, somebody's sending me a message. Why coding, not coding, why? Because it's not a coding class, it's a design class. Oh, so sad, heartbroken. You can learn coding other places. You can learn design with me. I've gotten very sidetracked. Anyway, so the bootcamp will be held online, and it's going to be open to everyone in Iraq, and we're only choosing 20 people for scholarships. You'll have it completely paid for. So if you don't think you're interested and you know somebody else, let them know. Couldn't find any UX designs on your name online, only t-shirt. Why? You didn't look hard enough on my website. Life, do you think it's a good idea to mix between modern design and classic design? It depends on the brief. It depends on the client, what they want. Which app do you suggest to me to develop myself? I don't have any Android suggestions. Like I said, IDEO is a pretty good place to start. IDEO. They're a great place to start to learn resources. Okay, guys. This is the end of the line. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Give me a clap if you're still alive and breathing after your iftar and after this very long presentation. And write it, please. Okay, to everyone. IDEO. And thank you all. Thank you. Thank you all for coming, and thank you all for joining me. And Bastun, do we have anything else?
I will share the presentation on our Facebook group, Recoded House Community, and the presentation and the apps we use for wireframing prototyping. If they're interested, and they can join the group and stay there, and then we will share so many things there: presentations, resources, workshops.
Absolutely, yeah. Be part of our community. There's a lot more opportunity to to learn more and to correct me and to be sad about not coding. Are you sad about not coding? There's enough coding in the world, ya Allah. There's not enough design. There should be more design. Have a good night, y'all, and enjoy the rest of your beautiful night. So I'm going to stop sharing here. Goodbye.